We live in an age of instant information. 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created each day, all at the click of a button. But because things are more accessible than ever, most people struggle to focus. It could be that meme that your friend sent you while on the toilet, or a doom scrolling session on social media. These constant distractions are stopping us from creating our dream life. But there is a solution. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, a psychologist and researcher, discovered that people find genuine satisfaction during a state of consciousness called flow. It's the same state that Bob Kahn and Vint Cerf used to create the internet, and it's helped the most notable people create their greatest inventions. And you probably experience it more than you know. Think back to a time when you worked on a project so intensely and you looked up and 4 hours had passed. Yeah, that was flow. And the only difference between you and some of the most successful people in the world is they have the ability to access flow on demand. Mihai talks about the 7 rules of flow state, and I've broken down what works into a simple 3-step process that a 5-year-old could follow. Step 1, singularity of focus. For most people, when they work, they have multiple tabs open, switching between emails, Slack, and documents, trying to make sense of it all. But that's keeping you from real productivity. Traditionally, we think that multitasking is the ability to work on 2 things at a time with equal effort. However, the cycle of flow contradicts this. When you multitask, you're not working on 2 things at the same time. Rather, you're switching between task and task. When we do work, there's a bit of a ramp-up period before we can get into flow. The 4 stages are struggle, release, flow, and recovery. Struggle is the first period where you intake a bunch of information. For example, when you start a new project, you read the guidelines and requirements. This is all part of the struggle phase. Release is the bridge between struggle and flow. This is where you've digested the information and you're actively making a game plan. Finally, we have flow. For the average human, it takes about 15 to 30 minutes to get into the flow stage. Therefore, every single time you switch between one task and the other, you're restarting this entire cycle. And this is why it's important to have singularity of focus for as long as possible. One of the best ways that I found to practice this is what I call the variable Pomodoro. Now, the basic Pomodoro is a focus strategy where you set a timer for about 25 minutes for focus and then a 5-minute timer for a break afterwards. And this is great for beginners who want something simple. The problem is that if you can focus for longer than 25 minutes, then the timer actually disrupts your flow state. Instead, what I do now is I set a stopwatch, and whenever I start to feel myself losing focus, I'll stop it. This allows me to get fully immersed in a project, giving 100% for as long as possible. Step 2, building your game plan. Game plans give us the step-by-step roadmap for successful work. If there's no plan, we often fall prey to productive procrastination. In a recent video, I talked about the 7 triggers of procrastination. I won't go too deep into it because you can watch that video here, but long story short, without a game plan, tasks become too difficult, making us more likely to push them off. A couple of years back, I would often find myself doing work, and because I wouldn't know how to get it done, I wouldn't have a plan, I would decide to just go to the gym instead. Now, in my head, this was equally as productive, but it actually wasn't. When we think of productivity, it's about how much we get done for the task at hand. And if I set a goal to finish a project and instead I go to the gym, it's not me being productive, it's me procrastinating. This is our brain's way of making excuses to not do the work. So every time you have that thought of, oh, maybe this is just too challenging right now, or I'm just too tired, you're actually convincing yourself that it's healthier to procrastinate when you're really just putting it off. The key to making effective game plans is to allot time for each individual task. I do this by time blocking. This is a big fancy word that just means systematically creating my calendar around the work that I want to get done in a day. I made a video about how I do it, so just click here to check it out, but I time block every single day. Typically, I'll plan my next day the night before because this is the time after I've already decompressed from the day and I can make clear, unencumbered decisions. I wish there was something sexier I could tell you, but no, like if you plan your days, you will be more productive. Every time I'm planning, I ask myself, what are the 2 or 3 most important things that will get me closer to my goal? And then I'll give time on my calendar to work on them. This allows me to drastically compress the time from the struggle phase to the flow state because I've already planned what I'm gonna be working on. And lastly, step 3, embracing empty spaces. We're all connected to the internet every second of the day, like 24/7. When we eat, we're watching a video. Before bed, we're getting in the last of our scrolling. We're all constantly doing something, and this destroys our ability to access flow. But here's the even crazier part. It's not really your fault. Deep within our brains, we have something called the limbic system. It's what controls our emotions and behavior amongst a bunch of other things. And one of the main purposes for this system is to stop us from doing unpleasant tasks. No matter how hard we try, our brains work even harder to keep us comfortable. This is why when you're running, you get the urge to stop, or when you're lifting heavy weights, you don't want to take that last set to failure. Your brain is built to prioritize the preservation of resources, not growth. And this absolutely sucks when it comes to productivity and flow. See, when you start to get bored from the work you're doing, the limbic system kicks in a process called immediate mood repair. It sends a signal to the rest of your brain to do something else that will give you a kick of dopamine. So when you actually decide to put off work and stop working, you're actually being rewarded with dopamine, making you far more likely to do it again. To break this cycle, we actually need to resist the impulse that boredom brings. This means setting boundaries with our devices. When I'm really trying to focus, I'll turn on my not reachable D&D setting and I'll put my phone in a different room. That way, even when I get bored, there's a barrier between me and the dopamine of going on my devices. Usually I'll reach for my device, it won't be there, I won't want to get up and go get it, so I just get back to work. By staying focused, we can train our brains to have longer attention spans. Accessing flow state is the key to unlocking endless amounts of productivity in the life that you want to build. And as Mihai states, it explores how we can experience enjoyment in our lives by controlling our attention and strengthening our resolve. But just like anything, it has its limitations. The human brain is like a battery. Some people have more battery life than others, but the common theme is that it needs to be recharged. No matter how focused you are, don't forget to recharge that battery with good sleep, exercise, and other things that you enjoy. And if you want to learn how I structure my day around squeezing out the most productivity, click this video right here and I'll walk you through it.